like a constipation.
Constipation is what we'll both have after eating Jankum stew.
Hello and good evening. It is Thursday, November 18th, 2021. And we just finished watching the 5th episode of Star Trek Prodigy, titled Terra Firma. But we're just getting started here on Live Long and Podcast. I'm Dave Mader, coming at you with Star Trek TV and movie reviews. I got a great panelists here that we are in cat boots together. We got Jessica Chan.
Hello.
We have Davan Skelhorn from Locutors of Trek. As all, and the three of us are going to break this all down tonight, as this was the conclusion of last week's episode, Dreamcatcher, the cliffhanger that left the crew of the Protostar stranded in the vines with the killer planet. It may be called the Murder Planet. It may be called Larry. We're not quite sure. It's still I've heard it.
Can we call it Larry?
I think
we can, Rok-Tahk.
I think we can. So a lot. And the other big development here was the crew came together. Gwyn rebelled against the diviner father. We also come in. We're like, okay, let's just get to it. And they've done exactly what we were asking for last week. Just let's get Gwyn integrated here and kind of launch the Protostar, as we find out that the Protostar is got a Protostar engine and can go much faster than conventional warp, and gives this crew a whole and the ship a whole new different legacy. Even the Janeway hologram doesn't know about it. It's not even available to her database. All right, I've been saying quite a bit. Let's get into this. Jessica, what did you think of this episode?
That's great. I loved it. That was really good. Good conclusion. And yeah, I liked now I feel like, I don't know, there's a new stuff to look forward to now that the kind of crew situation has been put to rest finally. So I think I'm excited for what comes next too.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. And Davan, what did you think of the conclusion of and sort of the net result of this episode?
I thought it was a good conclusion. It followed the last one very well. It wasn't a letdown after a very good episode last time. As we've seen with a lot of Star Trek two-parters, the second one's not usually as good as the first one. At least that's what I find. And I don't think that was necessarily the case here. I liked this episode possibly even a little bit better than the last one. So
yeah, it was. I thought it was a pretty
Janeway
good one.
got to do a lot of cool captain stuff. Which I enjoyed, and I liked the
What the
science.
real Janeway do?
Yeah, see, I like that. She'd clean house.
Yeah.
Well, if we're playing hardball.
Right. And don't step on his shoes though. There.
That sounds like baseball.
Yeah, that's Cisco's thing. He plays hardball. Yeah. So I thought that.
Good.
A few things, funny things that happened in this episode. I think that the whole thing where they're stranded on the surface, and Dal is always annoyed with whoever has done whatever. He's always, if anyone else is screwed up, he's always like, "What the hell?" Gwyn got us into this, but they're like, "What?" She also saved Murph. Right from the things, and they were the crewmates like Zero and Jankum Pog and them and Rok-Tahk are like, maybe Gwyn's not so bad. They're starting to come around, a little faster than Dal here, but Dal's like, yeah, whatever. And she gets her leg is broken right at this point, and she's able to sort of use that metal matrix device that she has to sort of create like a splint for her leg, so she can walk around with a broken leg, which I thought was impressive.
It's a useful tool. Can do a lot of things. She does something different with it every episode, it seems.
Yeah,
did she lose a part of it? I think though, she only kind of got one part of it back, right?
Well, it kind of broke into a billion pieces at one point, and then she was kind of forcing it back together, and it
looks like it was reforming
a few different times in a few different interesting ways.
Shorter on her arm at the end of the episode. It was only like a little little band rather than the full arm.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, like well, I was like, you're that's tough. But good on you. She's moving along. She's not going to let anything slow her down. Yeah, like I just thought that
Not going to hold hands with no rock monster. That's for sure.
Yeah, but the whole thing about like Janeway hologram, who I thought had been like sort of like taken over by Gwyn in the last episode, and was sort of like almost like the EMH without his ethical subroutines. But she seems kind of back to normal, and she's almost reconciled. She's like, no, I'm friends with the entire crew now.
Yeah, it seems like Gwen maybe didn't reset. She just kind of erased the part that said she wasn't in charge. Like, no, don't listen to her.
Yeah.
But otherwise, she didn't like erase her memory or anything. So she's like, she gave herself computer control, I guess, but not didn't do anything else. It seems
she didn't lock out the rest of them.
Yeah.
But should she have that, Davan?
Probably.
Well, yeah, she was just trying to get out. She was trying to steal the ship and leave them for dead. But don't worry, they're coming around on her.
Yeah, they rescue her in the end.
Whoops, I guess to be fair, she didn't know the planet was like a murder planet when she thought she was leaving them there. So
no, that's true. She thought she was leaving them just to sort of in the park. I also like how
let's not disparage these plants again. Like I think they're just doing a pitcher plant. It's just doing its thing.
The whole planet, I guess.
The telepathic pitcher plant. Yeah. It's like the crystalline entity. It's not evil.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Good analogy.
But the crystalline entity did like sort of conspire with Lore. Remember?
Conspire. I'm tricked by Lore, I would say.
Tricked?
He's a clever guy, that Lore. This poor crystalline entity. We don't know. This could be like a 12-year-old crystalline entity in crystalline entity years. It might not be, be able to match wits with Lore.
Yeah, well, it depends if you want to consider this the murder planet or it's Larry.
Larry.
So let's go with Larry. Let's go with
Larry's a lot, less threatening. There's one point where Zero's like, "I'm going to try to like reach the planet or the organism through my telepathy," and he goes, "Nope, just wants to eat us." There's nothing more than that. Just it's food. So maybe you're right. They're not evil. Just wants to feed.
It seems conflicted about it though, because it kind of gives them a break here and there.
Yeah, well, yeah. Just that's kind of the convenience or plot, I think. There was also that whole part where like I like the Jank and Pog right at the beginning where Gwyn's like, "Hey, listen, I kind of did this and this, and there was other reasons." We have history, and he goes, "She makes a good argument."
She makes a good argument.
Yeah, I just like that the Tellarite Jank and Pog just appreciates a good argument. That's his like thing.
And then he's trying to stir up shit with everybody later. He's just like, "Well, looks like it's pretty good to have a spacesuit. Don't have a spacesuit, Jank and Pog," they said.
Yeah, that was the best. I pulled that.
You won't need that suit, Jank and Pog. Who's laughing and breathing now? Nice and toasty on Murder Planet.
Whoa, Jank and Pog. Let's go with Larry.
But he takes it off later.
He takes it off, yeah. Like, so he was. I guess he did get a little hot inside of it, maybe. But yeah, he was. I like when Jank and Pog rubs it in. He goes, "I showed all you."
Maybe he couldn't fit into it after all those Klingon rations.
After he was like cooking up like was it like freeze dried worms that they were doing there, Davan, with the what was in that stew that gave the constipation.
I didn't actually catch that.
I think there was worms. Yeah,
I saw them. It looked like they were eating a bowl of worms.
Okay.
At one point.
Well, you want your gach fresh.
Yeah.
As long as it's fresh. It probably wasn't very fresh.
I did like that section though. Now that ever since you guys mentioned it, I think look for the little teaching moments of the kids. Like, this is a Klingon. Look, this is a Bat'leth. They're warriors. I was like, oh, a little bit more Star Trek education fitted into the show.
Yeah, I like it. I was like, yeah, they're little things. Too. I was like, oh, it's a bird of prey. Oh, it's a mechleth. Oh, it's not constellation. No, it is constellations. It's not constipations.
For a second I didn't think that she misspoke, and I was like, what the heck does a constipation? I thought she was saying the cloud looked like poo, and I was like, so
the constipation Leo.
Yeah.
Meklas was cool though. He like hits Rok-Tahk with it, and Rok-Tahk like doesn't even notice.
But and there was some scenes like in between when they were like sort of traveling, walking around, and when they sort of find the bird of prey later on. There's all these scenes with Janeway on the Protostar trying to like figure out how to get the ship off the ground, waiting for these crew, the 6 of them, to sort of catch up with her, and she like we said, what would the real Janeway do? And we're playing hardball, because there's also this whole tease that she doesn't have access to what the Protostar system is. It's taking up so much energy on this ship, which then gives us like
50%.
50% of the power of this ship is
a lot. That is a lot.
I'm guessing that's the containment. Is that what takes the power? It's
the gravimetric
right?
containment.
Well,
which is interesting. I love this whole Protostar thing, because that's what the Romulans do, but they use a black hole, a
artificial black hole, right?
Yeah, and they just gravimetric containment as well. So it's almost like they're layering Romulan tech over Federation tech for their little Romulan super boost.
So this is
using a Protostar instead of a black hole, which is interesting,
right?
You could have billions of years before that thing starts to expand on you. So. Get a lot of life out of that.
A Protostar is that small? It can be like just the size.
Well, yeah, the younger a star is, the smaller it is, and then it gets bigger as it loses gas.
A baby star.
Baby star. Baby star.
Baby star. Is that that's what they got going on here? So
that's a good name for a ship too. USS Baby Star.
The Protostar a little maybe more fitting, I guess, or a little bit more conventional, but yeah, even the Jane. So what was the point of this? Was this ship maybe built by the Federation to maybe meet Voyager, and they could use it to get home faster? Was that its original purpose?
They did say they were, sending people their way, but they wouldn't reach them for like 30 years or something. At one episode, I remember that they're like, "We have a ship on the way to meet you." It'll be forever before you see them.
But do you think that ship was still going when Voyager got home? You think in the last episode of Voyager?
If the Federation, has started to move in towards the Delta Quadrant, as it seems like they have in this show, this might just be their class of ship they're working on to interact with the Delta Quadrant better. Like have a fleet of like Delta Quadrant ships that can get back and forth pretty fast. So that's pretty cool. I hope that's what they're doing. Something like that.
Maybe so the Talaxians could even join the Federation if you could do that.
Yeah.
Right.
That would make sense why there's the Janeway
all
hologram.
40 of them.
She would be the most knowledgeable about, like, at least about of anyone in the Federation about what's in the Delta Quadrant and the people there and what their interactions were like.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It would make sense that it would be a Janeway hologram kind of sent along here, right? But
that
the top secret system. And also, I guess it's a good reason for the diviner to want. I guess we kind of know the reason now, what the sort of the secret of this ship is, why it's special, and it's got this very, it's got a prototype engine in the form of a protostar, a baby star, maybe named Larry, to be determined. Where depends where that name is going to land. And so there was like the whole part where they were kind of fighting the planet, and then didn't Gwyn they're all firing their phasers at it. It's not quite doing much because they're like, it's on stun. And then she makes like a torch, right? Because she like breaks off a branch and she wraps it up with some cloth or something. She phasers it, but then she sets like the forest on fire. But it's okay because it's really the planet that's trying to eat them, the murder planet, also known as Larry.
It's just part of its skin, I guess. So just lost it'll singe their hair a little. That's all.
Right. Destroying biodiversity is never okay.
So is
biodiversity if it's one giant entity?
It's kind of like,
There's got to be some ferns or something growing around that's not trying to eat them, isn't there? Is it all one
But
thing?
it can move its stuff around and terraform itself. So maybe just swallow the burnt part and spit it back out again.
it's like
It's a
Ego,
living
the
planet
living
itself. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's like
I was
Ego.
gonna say, I wonder if this planet's sibling is a Green Lantern.
Yeah, it could be. So there's some, like, I think when they found the bird of prey, I was like, okay, they're kind of slowing this down here because they realize that they're going in circles and they need to sort of get their bearings, and they get the Klingon rations. And yeah, you're right. I was like, oh yeah, they're teaching us here about what the bird of prey is. They find what was the weapon here?
It's called a mekler. It's a Klingon weapon.
Right. When they were also in the bird of prey, they were like talking about their experiences, what they had seen in the previous episode in Dreamcatcher, and because we got more of an explanation from Zero, because I was like, why did Zero imagine the engine ship and sort of the planet, and it was because like that was Zero's obsession, I guess, was the riddle or the mystery of what the ship was and why the Diviner wanted it and didn't want that sort of to end, because it's now like a new story, I suppose, for Zero. And then we got more explanation from Rok-Tahk, just like Rok-Tahk's like, like I wanted those pretty, like those cute little cuddly things to love me. I just want something to love. She just wants a cat. And we get this kid a cat.
She's got Murph.
But Murph gave her a hug.
Little scrunches there.
Right. There's Murph. There's always
Murph wrapped himself around her neck and gave her a little cuddle after that. So
Murph will keep me company.
Yeah.
There's some interesting sounds cover Murph. And Jenkins was just kind of like wanted food, and then
he said he didn't realize how much he missed home. I think that's what he said. So
yeah. So I guess he does kind of remember his planet, perhaps.
Yeah, seems like it. Because what specific stew I guess he had
at some point.
Yeah, like a teller.
So I guess that sleeper ship couldn't. Well, he could have been asleep for who knows how long if it was a sleeper ship.
Who knows how long? Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Pre-Federation, maybe.
Where are they? Because like there's a Klingon bird of prey, and they're still in the Delta Quadrant, though, right?
We think it. Yeah, they said the Delta in like the first episode, so we think that this is like somewhere around the Delta Quadrant.
So the Klingons made their way that far out then as well. So
yeah, it's they had already. We already established they had in like the Voyager episode where they run into this. They run into this old Klingon ship that's been.
For the while, yeah. Yeah,
they end up thinking B'Elanna Torres's baby is the Kuvamaka or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
he's got to be pre-Federation because he hasn't heard of them. So if he had been from Delar,
he might be really old. He might be centuries old, technically speaking. But they get it. But then Dal doesn't really talk about his experience until later on with Gwyn, sort of separately. When they're talking about their constipations,
like a constipation.
Right. And and he was like, well, it's I saw my family but not their faces, and he's because he doesn't know what species he's from, he has a sort of like, this is sort of his thing. He's like, I don't really know what I am, and I kind of make it up sometimes.
All my life, people ask me what species I am, as if I give it a name, they'd treat me differently. Usually I make something up because really, who would know? But just once, instead of being asked, I just wish someone out there could tell me.
Yeah, so he's that's his sad story. Dal.
I'm
he doesn't
bored.
Well, Jessica, do you feel for Dalrel?
Yeah, I guess so. It's interesting. I kind of wonder where they'll go with it, because I feel like that has the chance to be the most cliched storyline of the show. Who am I? Where do I come from? Oh,
Well,
he's my least favorite.
What if you're like Icheb and then you find out your parents are actually just want to feed you to the Borg?
Oh no.
They're in the Delta Quadrant. There's probably going to be some Borgy stuff here at some point.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking, it reminded me of Futurama with Leela finding out she's just a mutant of another. She's human, just with missing an eye. Maybe that's him. He's just a mutated version of a of a known species.
Maybe like he's just like, I don't know where I came from. I'm an orphan kid and I don't know what's up, and that's kind of his
he's a rare purple Orion.
Yeah, with like a little
with a tail
like
Or
Padawan thing going on, braided thing.
Something that came out of a James Cameron movie.
Something like that, yeah.
The tail is to ride the flying pterodactyls in Avatar, right? Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Avatar? No.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's what they have.
Show is better than Avatar, though.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I don't know. I guess it was good. He finally like learned. This episode, I guess, made me feel better because he was just. Everybody else was kind of on the fence about Gwen, and he was still just being a hard ass about it, even though he was
friends with her first.
Yeah, and then he was just like so bitter towards her, and everyone else was like, I mean, come on, cut her some slack. And he was such a, I don't know. So like the fact that he came back for her and he was the one who went down to get her, I think made me feel a bit better about the whole
Yeah,
thing.
look at that face she's got. That's a face of somebody who's on your side. That's not a face of a villain.
Yeah, that made me like him a bit more, that he was willing to talk to her, and then he came back for her. So yeah. That's good. He went up in my opinion.
He's
a face that's in cat boots.
They're in cat boots together now. Yeah, and so after the whole thing, they come a they we don't even need to worry about because I guess the planet was deceiving them and making them go in circles, for 10 kilometers over and over again. And they're like, we can just use the constipations.
Constipation is what we'll both have after eating Jenkum's stew.
Yeah, but they can use it for fixed points.
If you're lucky, I think it's going to go the other way.
But okay, like is this the other thing the show does? Is sort of like like make just puns on words, or also to try to teach you something about, oh, don't worry, even if your tricorder can't help you get to the ship for some reason, you can look at the stars. You don't have to rely on just your technology or your phone.
You described my podcast there. Puns on words and try to teach you something. That's pretty much what we do over there at Locutors of Trek.
Exactly. I think Jessica just froze.
So the ones kept moving. I think that's what it was, right?
Sorry, just start that again. You were frozen for part of that.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying it actually it wasn't. It was literally moving the ship around. Like it could actually move its.
Surface. Oh, it was moving. It was moving where the protostar was.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was doing, right? It was like moving the ship. So the beacon kept, like, they would check where the beacon was and walk that direction, and then would move it so that they were walking in the wrong way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So then you actually use the stars to figure out which way to go, because they have no reference point of the ship.
You're right then. So the ship wasn't moving. Yeah, I know you're right. Because then why would the stars work if they were moving the ship? Yeah, good point.
I'm not sure if they should have worked, but that was what they explained, and then they got there. But this is also when the bad guys show up. We got what's his name, Dreadnought,
Diviner,
and the Diviner.
Your progeny, my progeny,
my progeny. He says my progeny like 8 times in this episode.
He's like progeny. But the show's not called Star Trek Progeny. It's called Star Trek Prodigy.
Yes.
But they say progeny a lot.
Yep.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. And then Dreadnought, he goes into like full General Grievous mode at one point with the different legs and and this is we see Gwen stands up. She's like, I'm not with you, Dreadnought. I get out of here, guys. I'm going to sacrifice myself, further endearing herself and doing a full face turn. Now she's in cat boots with them now fully, but she was still feeling maybe some, she's willing to fight Dreadnought. But then later on, when she sees her dad, and he was like, I'm here now. He beams down. He doesn't have to stay in the fishbowl, I guess. He doesn't have to stay swimming all the time, right? He shows up here. I guess not. Because we were like, well, that was weird. She should have known it wasn't him last week, because because she saw that vision of him in the last episode. But it wouldn't have mattered. He can leave that fish tank thing, and he can kind of walk around no problem. He can even get his cat boots taken over by the different vines. And
It's
he
just
gets
warm in there. You
tangled up.
liked it.
Yeah, that's just like the way he chills
That's
out.
right.
Like that's
Yeah.
like his bath
Like a
bath
hot tub.
time. Hot tub time machine.
He seemed weak when he got out of it. It seemed like the suit kind of supported him. So
Okay, so maybe that's I don't know. We don't know a lot about this diviner other than he loves to say progeny. My progeny. Progeny.
He won't save his progeny.
He won't save. You know, he's like, no, I have to go get the ship. But it wasn't even the planet was mind controlling him, or was giving him illusions as well.
That was a good
That was
little
cool.
trick of the episode.
Yeah, he had no choice.
I had no choice.
He should have just lied. Like I knew you'd be fine. You're a big girl. You can handle yourself. It's good.
It wasn't me. It was an illusion. The planet has deceptive powers. He could have had plausible deniability, but he didn't go for it. And so, but like he leaves her for dead. She's getting consumed, but that like as you mentioned, Jessica, Dal came to save her. You know, and they pulled her out, and that's you don't leave anyone behind. That's right. That's the Starfleet way.
It's the Starfleet way.
Janeway seemed very proud of them. Like, she knew more than she let on about the dynamic going on there.
What did Janeway always say?
You know, is to the truth.
No, that was Picard who said that. But Janeway would say stuff like, you know, being a captain is you got to tuck your shirt in, and you got to be, you know, go down with the ship, and you never leave anyone behind. Those are the rules of being a captain. And so, you know, and Janeway's like, good on you cadets. You know, we can get out of here together. And so the whole thing where then the diviner's ship, like with the dreadnought that chased them, he's like, your progeny betrayed us. And he's like, let's go after them, pursuit course. And they catch up, and their ship was huge. It was like it dwarfed the Protostar massively. Right. And they're like, we can't get out of here. They got the tractor beam. They're like, get us out of here, Jankopog.
Jankopog would if he could.
But he can't, so he won't. You know? And it's looking tenuous, but then the Protostar reveal. Jessica, do you think this is a cool twist for this ship to have this? Like to have this big moment where, you know, like Rok-Tahk's like, something's happening, and we see all like the blue lights come in and everything, like the new function of the ship.
Yeah, I liked it. It was interesting. I didn't even really think about it. I know I mentioned it earlier, but it wasn't really one of the mysteries that I thought of. But they did kind of reveal it in the opening sequence. They show that opening up, and
that's true.
About it, we thought it was like a third nacelle, but now we know it's like two nacelles and a Protostar warp.
A Protostar like thruster. It almost looks like a big rocket ship. Davan comes out of like the back, and then the nacelles go down, and then that ship can book it.
It's pretty sweet. It's probably like 9.99999 because those decimals make you go a lot faster once you get up that high.
Okay,
it's all exponential at that point.
What I learned today watching something else was that warp 5 is twice as fast as warp 4, right?
Exactly.
So
it's like exponential. It's crazy.
There's exponential. So like even warp 9.9 compared to warp 9.8, there is a significant difference, presumably, right?
Oh yeah, they'd be gone. It wouldn't be like a slow acceleration away from you. It'd be gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they're not going to go
Which
fast
they
enough
were.
that they start seeing tea parties with their dead grandmères and stuff, right? Is that it won't go that fast? That episode of
we
TNG,
might see some salamanders next episode.
Are we going to see some salamander babies? And then, you know,
we might.
Who's having salamanders with who?
Oh no.
Well, this is a PG show. We won't have none of that. But
that was an episode of TNG where that guy came and messed with their warp core, and then they ended up on like some kind of in like dimensions or like
the traveler,
dead relatives or something. Yeah.
Picard sees his mother, Mama.
Yeah. That was his grandmère, right? Oh, Jean-Luc, come have tea with me.
Oh yeah, it's like Mama. Hello, Mama.
Oh, was it his? Oh, was his mother? Okay,
Yeah,
that
it's
was
his
his
mother.
grandmother.
Yeah, there was one. There was also like a dream sequence where Q made Picard's father appear, and he was like, "So Luke, don't go off to that damn academy." It's quite funny.
I think it'll be interesting for the
Stay
show
here and have
because
tea.
how fast they go. Like, can they make it? I guess. Like, is the Delta Quadrant like they can go in and out now? Like, they can easily get to Federation space, or I guess I'm curious to know like what's the speed and how fast they can traverse like these distances that Voyager took, years
and
to
years.
get across.
Good question. I don't know what this is going to mean for the Protostar and what they'll do with it, because if you have this power to go so much faster, and if the power is sort of limitless, if it's powered by this Protostar, and it can it's never going to it's not like you're going to run out. Hey,
but this is it's a terrible environmental catastrophe, because as we know from that TNG episode, those high warps tear the fabric of subspace. Going at warp speeds like that, it's just gonna be.
Do you think that this Protostar is like it's not a green energy? Are you saying this is not sustainable energy? This is like
it's dressed as green energy with the Protostar engine, but I don't think so. It's like
but the nacelles go down.
Birds running into a windmill. Is it like?
If this is,
I don't know.
We're
gonna have to see. Maybe that's what that third nacelle does.
It's not a nacelle though. It's like a thruster.
Protostar.
Thruster, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I think that if this is having, I don't know. Let's say it's not. Like I think that they're no. The Protostar does not just create environmental damage to subspace or this fabric of space. We'll see. Maybe that will be the lesson the kids are going to have to learn the hard way. Well, we have a carbon tax now, except we're going to call it we're going to call it a Protostar tax or something like that.
Look, kids, just because you can drive really fast doesn't mean you should drive really fast.
Let's be responsible here. Let's warp 6 tops is all you're allowed, unless it's an emergency.
Getting away from a big Borg Queen looking ship.
Well, and I'm going to be talking about Discovery later tonight, and they could have used this Protostar technology potentially, with the dilithium shortages and that whole environmental crisis that they're facing in the galaxy in that show. But that's in another time, another place, another show, another podcast, which is only an hour and a half away from now for me. So. So like they get away, and like Dreadnought and the Diviner, they're left in the dust. The Diviner, he lost the ship, he lost his daughter now. She Gwyn says, "You've made your choice."
You made your choice, Father. Now I've made mine.
Yeah, and she's now fully into the ship like a constipation.
Like a constipation.
She's in.
Good, she can be captain now. Dal's the worst captain.
I was wondering about that because I know her leg is broken, so that's why she had to sit down. But I did notice she was sitting in the captain's chair.
Me too.
So you don't think that he's going to be the captain anymore? Or you think he'll concede?
I think that's going to be an episode. I think they just because they like each other and they're on the same team, they're still gonna butt heads over who's in charge. I think.
Yeah.
Captain's log, star date. I don't know.
She would know.
He did say supplemental though. It's like captain's log. Supplemental?
I wonder if that was part of Janeway's training.
Supplemental? What's the word I'm supposed to say? Is it affidavit? All right, yeah. So like I'm curious to see, okay, next episode, how does Gwyn fit in? Is she the captain? Is she the first officer? It doesn't matter. How is this crew? Where do they go with this? Where do they go next? If you can go almost maybe anywhere, or kind of almost like sort of anywhere within Protostar warp range, where does that take them? Like what might they look for? Do they want to look for Dal's home? Do they want to look for Rok-Tahk's home? Or any of them, perhaps, that they don't know where they come from, reuniting them with whatever families they might have, or do they just want to explore? Is that what the Janeway's got like? Okay, and now we're gonna go to was last week just like the Hirogen reference, was that just so they could use the word Hirogen, Davan, in an episode? They were never actually going to show us Hirogens.
Looks like it.
They're just planning
They
that
do,
word.
there's quite a few nods and stuff in this show, but like, I mean, that's fine. That's fine. I'd rather them be there than not be there.
Well, I mean, they had the Klingon ship, but who knows if they'll actually ever meet Klingons? So.
Here's a question, Davan. Do you think that the Protostar's engine, if it exploded, how the containment field, that it was taking 50% of the ship's power just to contain the Protostar's energy? How big of a bang do you get?
Oh my! I think you destroy a solar system easily with that.
Yeah, it could be. Could be like that. That supernova that was that blew up Romulus and that threatened the galaxy. Remember
It's a star. If our star blew up, I think our solar system would be toast.
Yeah. No, yeah, it would be.
But
like it was like I remember Spock in that mind meld with the Chris Pine Shatner, or the Chris Pine Kirk. I'm sorry. He was like,
Chris Pine Shatner sounds bad.
The Chris Pine Shatner impression. Yeah, he was like, he was like in the year like 2379 or whatever it was, like a supernova threatened the galaxy. I was like, a supernova is just one star, right? Why would that threaten the entire galaxy?
I don't get that.
But they're like, but I told the Romulans I'd save them, and then he doesn't, and then anyway, that's a whole other movie. But
whole other universe or timeline, I guess. Sorry, timeline.
Yeah, a divergent timeline as well. So yeah, I digress. Anyway, so maybe we should get to, I don't know if there's any I'm just gonna see if there's any kind of trivia for this episode. This episode's it marks the end of the first part of season 1. It is the first mid-season finale. Why is this a mid-season finale? Is it because we have an episode?
Are they gonna take a break?
Are they taking? Yeah, is it like a Thanksgiving break because of the Americans or something? Or
actually, yes, the 6th episode won't air until January.
Next,
guys, we're off for a couple weeks.
Oh, we're off for more than a month.
Yeah, we're off. We're off until like January 6th. There's no new episodes.
Oh.
Well, luckily, my new X-Men podcast is jumping in on Thursday to pick up the slack. You're welcome.
There we go.
I saw your invite for that, and I was like, "Well, what kind of spam am I getting in my?"
Oh,
because of the name.
It is
All I saw was X-rated.
It says
someone invited me to like X-rated. I was like,
so there's this.
I was trying to avoid those types of connotations, but my co-host just sent the idea back and just like dove right into it. So I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do it.
Wow, I didn't know it was going to be such a big break. I thought
actually.
Coming,
so get this. We are I guess season 2 will start next in 2020. Well, much later in 2022, about almost a year from now, or over a year from now. But there will be 5 more episodes that will start January 6th and will run from January into just early February. So yeah, because they're breaking right now basically for Discovery season 4, which I will be starting on tonight. So I only have this crossover for 1 week. That's okay.
Oh, good. Okay, well that's better, I guess, for your schedule wise.
Yeah, that's much better actually.
I guess I wonder if they thought it was oversaturated, or the fact is just. I mean, it seems like that's the nature of animation, even though I know this is like CGI.
I think they knew I needed the break. I think they were like, Dave,
just for Dave.
They're like, really, for the other, the Daves and the Davins and the Star Trek podcasters of the world, and Jessica's like, they how can they do it all? How can we expect this of them?
Cutting close Star Trek though. My due date's in February 14th, so they better
hurry. They better hurry up here. Okay, yeah. Well, February 3rd would be the finale.
Okay, all right.
So but presumably when we pick this up in January, you'll be further along.
Yeah. So
taking that into account though, it was nice. For a sort of half season ender, nice 2-parter.
Yeah,
to sort of take it away
in a different perspective.
The crew together. And come
well,
back.
yeah, I agree. I think that this was. I didn't really know that this was until this moment that we were like, well, we're not going to be talking about this for another month or so. I expected to be doing an episode next week, but no. Does that change how I feel about the episode? I guess a little bit, because I was like, oh, okay, where are they going now? And now I'm a little disappointed. I have to wait to find out, because I was like, okay, great. They're cruise together. They got the ship. Go. What now? But it did make sense in terms of how it ended, especially with the diviner. And they were like, we haven't scanned for them. They're gone. They're gonzo. We can't get them.
Yeah. So for now, I guess they're going to have to find another way to track them or hints. So yeah, we just depends how far they go. I don't know. This I find interesting about this show is like other shows, I guess, because it's an overarching, like for the whole season, you kind of have a slight idea of what, like where they're going. But I guess because this is kind of like a mini arc, and then we're gonna have like our half of the show arc, you never know kind of where they're gonna go with it, or what's the next, like where are they gonna be? What are they gonna do? Are they gonna head for Federation space? They're gonna go deeper into the Delta Quadrant, like.
Sky's the limit. They can do whatever they, like they have so many. I like that they have a lot of different possibilities here, and a lot of potential. All they can do is disappoint me, because all I can do is think of all the great things they might do, and then they won't do them all. But hey,
think tank's coming. Think tank's
coming. We got Jason Alexander's coming back. We know that Chakotay is going to be involved in this back half. We think so. We're pretty sure, at least, and certainly for season 2, it sounds like. Just on the whole fun facts thing, this was the first time they've had a mid-season finale for a Star Trek series since Discovery season 1, which was Into the Forest I Go. This episode was released, of course, today is the same day as Discovery's season 4 premiere, Kobayashi Maru, which I'll be talking about in just over an hour or so with Adam Woodward and Michael Chan and Ashley Millard, breaking that down. And this is the first time that 2 episodes of Star Trek have been released since The Girl Who Made the Stars and Ephraim and Dot premiered. So it's like, I guess that was Star Trek Discovery. Oh, it's the short treks. This is the short treks. And then back in the day, 1999, there was a DS9 episode that aired the same night as Voyager's Equinox. The Dogs of War aired.
Dogs of War would have. The Equinox wouldn't follow that so well. Oh, actually, Equinox is a good episode too. Geez, that's a good.
But normally, Star Trek has not, like, if there's multiple shows happening at the same time, they try to avoid going the same day. But not this. It's happened before, and it happened today. So it's almost like Star Trek Day in some ways. I'm actually happy about it.
But they will overlap eventually, right? If they come back January 6th, Discovery won't be over by then, right?
I don't think so. But there might be, but maybe that's when their mid-season finale will be,
okay,
or something like that. I could see that being the case.
That's
funny. Yeah, and then that's all in terms of like the different fun facts that I can find. There's not a lot of trivia. This only happened today, but maybe we can get into some ratings and find out how much we like this episode. So, Terra Firma. First of all, we haven't really talked about the title, but Davan, do you understand the reference on the title?
I do indeed. Terra Firma.
Terra Firma, the Enterprise episode near the end of season 4, right? It's also just a play on words.
They're a bit of a sketchy organization there. Terra Firma.
I liked this episode quite a bit. Constipation and all. I liked it just as much as last week, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to give it a 9.2. Gavin?
Yep. 9.2. Yep. I agree with you again. You're getting all the right numbers, Dave.
I know. I'm just like, I'm just gonna go with the same as you now, because I'm like, 9.5 seems awfully high. There's nowhere to go.
It does.
Yeah.
Up from there.
But remember, it's just like the warp drive. It's exponential. Each factor is twice as much.
I'll go with the consensus of 9.2. That's fair. I did like it a bit better than last week's, just because it kind of, it closed up that storyline of the is Gwen good, is Gwen bad kind of thing, brought the crew together. They're working as a team. I'm glad that that's kind of out of the way, and excited to see kind of explorations and stuff.
And who's the captain?
Yeah.
I'm the dissenter on this podcast, apparently. You guys agreed on every single one so far.
Yeah, usually Jessica and I are pretty aligned on our votes here, or our ratings. But we all have been. We've all been pretty positive. Our averages are not that far off overall. And we also see here that every episode got a little better. Our ratings were going a little bit more as we were getting a little bit more familiar with this crew. And just they've had
the sky isn't the limit. 10 is.
Exactly. A lot of different writing teams here. A lot of different types of writers, and like most of this was ensemble. I think tonight was ensemble too, but I think maybe just a bit more focus on Gwyn in this one, maybe compared to the other ones.
I have to say, for something that was written by every episode was written by different people, they certainly were very good at keeping it cohesive. Like I didn't think like, oh wow, like they went way off or anything. Like it was very like they stuck to a kind of a really set overarching story, and it like I didn't really notice any difference in the characters. Like they were really like, yeah, they kept it all together, even though it was like every episode was written by a different person.
No, it's a great point. Like I think that this team is talented. I think I like what they're doing. They are being faithful to Star Trek. They are being very. I think they're getting the right tone here. I hope that the target audience likes it as well. Because we're not the target audience. We're much older, but like I think that I would if I was a kid, I would enjoy this, and I think its connections to Star Trek are natural, and they're organic, and I think that they're taking the best parts of it while sort of like throwing references in and making it feel like a shared universe. Davan, you agree?
So on a scale of 1 to 10, Dave, this is for you.
Yeah.
How canon is this show? Scale of 1 to 10.
It is canon, so it's 10.
Whoa.
Canon for me is like it basically it's not a
10 or 0.
It's 10 or 0. It's binary, really, even unless it's a non-binary thing. But like canon is anything that the property owner says it is, right? So if Paramount says this is canon, then it's canon. If they say it's not canon, then it's not canon. That's how canon works. So it's but it's generally what people accept as being as like sort of connected, right? Like when you think of canon, like headcanon is sort of a thing. It's sort of like what people have in like they're conscious about, right? Yeah. Like when people think of Star Trek, they think of people wearing colored shirts, but sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not. So it's mostly true, but it's not always true. And like that's kind of an example, or I'm kind of where I'm going with it, that canon can be sort of what people sort of generally accept about what's true about that particular thing, what's true about the Star Trek universe. And usually it's like, yeah, there's Earth, there's the Federation, there's Klingons, there's these things have happened, Captain Kirk, Spock, Vulcans, all that kind of stuff. Just
Harry's an ensign, the consistent things.
Yeah, Harry Kim's an ensign. That's what Janeway would do.
What would the real Janeway do?
I have I don't know how much you guys are the experts, but it didn't seem like anything in this show really contradicts anything. But I mean, that's also a carefully chosen location and kind of away from everything. So far, it's not like Star Wars canon where you have to bend over backwards for it to make sense. So this one seems pretty straightforward.
That's what I call Discovery canon.
Yeah, well, hey, we're gonna be talking about that today
on Discovery.
On Discovery, yeah. Well, the thing was, yeah, like things like that are contradictions to what's happened before, like blatant contradictions, especially to really popular episodes and really popular kind of things that have come before. The things that no one likes, sometimes people are okay with those contradictions because they're like, whatever, that was everyone hated that episode. But if it's a really good one, people don't like those as much, and like they go. Like, if they say like in an episode, these were the first Romulans ever assimilated, and then everyone's like, well, I never heard that before. That's kind of a weird thing to throw in now into the Star Trek Picard series. But so like that's one example. So nothing here was contradicting. I think that canon can also enhance things, right? Because we know, well, okay, like Jankum Pog's a Tellarite, but he doesn't know about the Federation, but he does know about these things, and so. With the canon that's come before, you can use that as a tool to sort of maybe say, well, maybe the writers are implying like we've been saying, maybe he's really old. Maybe he was on a sleeper ship for hundreds of years. Maybe he's from a different time in Teller's history. And what does that mean for his character? Who knows? So it's I think that you can use, like, sometimes it's looked at as a negative because it's like, well, it's hampering creativity, but it's also sort of allowing a fan of the greater series and properties to sort of like enjoy it all together and sort of see how it's all exists together. You know, that's the, like, otherwise everything should just be its own standalone universe, you know, every single version of something. But it's fun when things cross over. Anyway, I'm on a rant here. If only Jaemeel was here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He could rant right back at you.
Yeah, he'd be like, it doesn't matter, Dave. I like my Star Trek books. I'm like, it's okay. You can like your Star Trek books. They're just not canon.
That's where headcanon comes in. If you read a book and you like it, add it to your headcanon. It's
yes.
If you don't like it, leave it out.
In your version, it can exist. It's just like, but then you can't stand up in the middle of convention and say, this doesn't match my headcanon. You know,
like, for example, over on our show, Mr. Scott, he excludes Threshold from his headcanon. It doesn't exist in his Star Trek world.
Oh yeah, so you can just choose to disregard something, like I often do with Highlander, because Highlander had the worst canon where like every movie was like, this is the new sequel. Terminator did that too for a while. Like, this is the real Terminator 2. No, this is the real, or Terminator 3, I guess. This is the real Terminator 3. Yeah, because everyone wanted to be the better follow-up and they couldn't quite ever make it. So sometimes you're like, well, that doesn't count because no one liked it.
I look at it, I'm kind of ignoring Picard as canon. I know it is, but
a lot.
Like
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like that's why what you put out, you want to be good, because when you put something out that's bad, then everyone's like, oh, why'd you do that?
Well, I just don't like anything that retroactively kind of like when you end TNG, whatever you think of the ending, like, you know, you have an idea of who the characters are, and then something like Picard comes on, you're like, oh, kind of make Picard kind of an a-hole. Like out of nowhere, kind of, you know, retroactively kind of ruins.
That's not out of nowhere. Have you seen season 1 of TNG?
Yeah, no, but I mean in the way that like he was just like, oh, I'm just gonna give up. Like it just didn't seem in character to him, and he was kind of,
that seemed odd to me as well. Yeah, maybe he was just getting tired in his old age, so like didn't have another.
Or also just kind of when you end the show, then the next step is to go, oh, this is the next thing I've got to look at. Like, well, I mean, Nemesis also was kind of whatever, but like, you know what I mean? You're kind of like, oh, that's the future. That's the future I'm looking forward to. Like, ugh, I don't like that. Like, that's terrible. Plus,
it sort of fixed Nemesis.
I do know what you're saying.
It gave Data a way more satisfying and touching death than Nemesis.
Yeah. But also kind of ruined the whole no money thing, because I got really confused as to how someone could be living in a shack in the desert and he's got this giant vineyard. I was very confused about that.
Yeah, and then Raffi
she's isolated on as a choice, I guess.
No, but she was mad at him. She's like, "Go back to your mansion." Like.
Oh yeah.
So,
what did he do?
He's a bit fancy even by future standards.
I was a little confused now. I don't understand the money thing now. It was a little confusing.
Yeah. Why did he name his dog number 1? Why is it not numero un?
No.
Well, you know, money doesn't have to exist for property to exist.
Right. And there could be sort of wealth in a futuristic sense, even though there's no money.
Or just like it's the Federation in Starfleet time now. If there's no property, nice vineyards left on Earth, go to that's why there's so many colonists that we see. They, I'll go grab my piece of land somewhere else, because there's always an option to do that in this future.
Yeah, but then the crystalline entity might get you.
Might get you on Earth too.
Might get you anywhere.
You end up on a murder planet, Larry.
Actually,
or you might get assimilated by the
crystalline
Borg.
entity. Like the mean doctor lady figured out a way to kill it pretty easy.
That's true. She just like changed the frequency and went, and it like shattered. And anyway, that's a whole other episode.
Star Trek plays Beastie Boys now. They would never even get close.
Sabotage. Just like destroy this crystalline.
And he's like, no.
Okay, let's let's
I
plug our
digress.
other shows. Yes, let's digress. So I really enjoyed these looking at this show, Star Trek Prodigy. I think that we were lucky to do that. I feel lucky to do this with you guys and to talk about this because I think that I'm looking at it a way I wouldn't have been otherwise, and so it's it's part of Star Trek, and I welcome it. It's part of the universe. You know how all of these different flavors of Star Trek now that now exist together, going from like episode of Lower Decks this year to now like today watching this and watching Discovery, and knowing that Picard is coming up as well, in Strange New Worlds beyond that, and probably other movies. Like it's kind of really it's a very interesting time to be a Star Trek fan, and I'm glad I get to share it with such great people. So thank you. I want to, and
That's cat boots if I've ever heard it.
And in celebration of that, you should also check out the other podcasts we do here on Live Long and Podcast, covering all kinds of things new and old, including Star Trek: The Original Series, which we just wrapped up this past Monday. We had finished the 79 episodes, finishing with all our yesterdays. We're gonna, I think, do like kind of like a reunion show eventually, and just looking back at all the whole process we did of reviewing all those episodes and rating them, and kind of looking at what the top episodes were and what sort of they had in common, and what the worst episodes had in common as well, because they weren't all good, and that's kind of, if it were, then that would make the really good stuff stand out as much as it does. Also, check out on Tuesdays, we've been reviewing all of the episodes of Deep Space Nine. We've been doing those in order. We're up to season 4. You got your own spot there, I can see.
Always just cat boots.
In the cat.
This is Parker. It's Parker.
Peter Parker.
He's named after. Yep.
We just talked about Rules of Engagement this week, and we will be talking about Hard Time, the one where O'Brien's sort of like in a prison in his mind for 20 years. That's coming up next Tuesday, so check that out. Plus, we've been here talking about Star Trek Prodigy. We did Star Trek Lower Decks season 2 earlier this year, and we're starting on Star Trek Discovery season 4 today as well. So all kinds of things coming up here on Live Long and Podcast, including the return of Star Trek Radio Theater, which will be coming up on November 27th. As we will be bringing Star Trek Lower Decks season 2 episode Wedge Douche to life in audio form. Well, imagine you watched a cartoon, but it was done by different people and there was no animation. So that's what you'll get with this. Isn't this even better? So yeah, it's going to be a lot better. Well, yeah. And Jessica, you'll be playing Mariner and Dr. Tiana. I'm going to be playing Ma and Captain River, the Packlids. Davan playing Brad Boimler. As well as,
or am I playing William Boimler?
Wow, you've just been boimed. And we got all the Live Long and Podcasters, and the players from Radio Theater here to bring this as well. And then in a month's time, we're going to be doing I don't have a poster for this yet, but we're going to be doing Star Trek First Contact next. Just figured out all that and who's going to be playing who, so we're excited to do that. But first, we must do Lower Decks. And also check out our other channels. We got Trivial Debates, a monthly show where we argue about movies, TV, sports in a game show format. We do that last Sunday of every month. That's coming up on November 28th. That will be the day after that big Radio Theater. And we also have Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, our channel where we talk about stuff that's not even Star Trek. Guess what? We talk about TV shows that aren't even Star Trek, including we've been doing Survivor season 41 for almost, I guess, 9 or 10 weeks now. We just did the newest episode last night. Every Wednesday at 9:30, as that show is now down to the final 8. They started with 16, so half the castaways are gone. Plus, we've done shows like Big Brother. We did this season 23 earlier this year of the USA version, and season 9 of the Canadian. We also have Big Brother Celebrity coming up this winter. And what else am I missing? Oh, Marvel podcasts. Like we just did Eternals, but we've talked about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We've talked about the Black Widow and WandaVision. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man coming up very soon, and also Hawkeye. And also looking to get around to Tiger King. That's the other one we want to talk about, because we did the original Tiger King when that was one of our earliest podcasts in Super Mario Bros. Podcasting. So we have to follow it up with a season 2. So
did you say Hawk Guy?
Did I?
That's an insider Hawkeye joke, actually. Hawkeye fans out there, you get me.
Sure. I know he's not my favorite Avenger, but I'll be watching the show. It looks like a Christmas theme this year, so I'm excited.
The most powerful of all Avengers.
Yeah, with his bow and arrow. Can't even bring a gun. All right. So that's the end of this first half of Star Trek Prodigy Season 1. We'll be back to talk about Episode 6 in January. And until then, you just stay unconstipated, right?
Like a constipation.
All right.
Listen to my podcast, too. Both of them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't plug your podcast. Here, check out.
All right, we just did. It was a quick.
Locutors of Trek.
Yeah.
All right. This Sunday, we're doing Writers Room pictures. Check that out.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, actually. Writers Room. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's go out here with Jenkin Pog's best rant ever.
You won't need that suit, Jacob Pod. Who's laughing and breathing now? Nice and toasty on Murder Planet.